right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. It's the last panel.
Oh.
That felt good. That felt good.
Gamer X. I'm not sad about that.
Yeah.
This is the main event.
Yes, they did it backwards.
Yay! Thank you guys.
claps.
Thanks for playing along. So this is the Journalism and LGBTQ Issues in Gaming panel. I have, by the way, let me move this over here. My name is Ryan Bates. I am a writer for GXTalks.com as well as a freelancer for GameRevolution.com. And finally, after 3 days of hunting down my shirt, I can prove that I am a staff member at GamerX as the Director of Information. So, because now I have this shirt, it proves it. So that is me. We're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves, and we're going to start talking about what the journalist role is in this movement that we've produced now that is kind of the gamer movement, gamer with a Y, the gamer movement. So I will go ahead and start to my right. No, I'll start to my left. Okay, go.
I'm Nick Tan. I'm the senior editor at Game Revolution.
Joshua Meadows. I freelance. I used to do writing for gaygamer.net, but that's basically just a freelancer now.
Steve Hogarty. I'm also a freelancer. I mostly write for a website called PC Games N, but I've written for things like Nintendo Magazine in the past in the UK.
And I'm Jessica Vasquez, and I'm a freelancer for Game Revolution, and I've been working there as a freelancer for about 3 years now.
I'm Kevin Schaller. I'm also a freelancer for Game Revolution, done a little bit for the GamerX blog and a couple other little spots here and there.
Okay. So one of the questions we get asked all the time is how we got our start, which really is kind of all the same answer that you'll get from any other person, which is you just do. But just to go down the road really fast with our experiences.
Figure skating. That's how I got my, yeah. I was the part of Columbia University. Whoa. I was a part of the member for the figure skating club there, and apparently the leader, named Holly Hester, she had a half-brother who worked at Game Revolution, and I was like, oh, really? And I was working a little bit on the forums at GameSpot, and I was a freelancer for HonestGamers.com for a while. And so with that, background and me just wanting to get that, break, I took it and I became a freelancer for Game Revolution. They would send me games, I would review them, and then out of the blue, the boss there, Duke Ferris, he said, you want a job? And I was like, yeah. And I just made my way from New York, traveled all the way down to San Francisco in the Bay Area, and I've been here ever since, 6 years ago.
So I started with a magazine that may be way too old for many of the people in the audience here, called XY, which was one of the first LGBT... Oh, maybe not too old. One of the very first magazines catering to the young gay male demographic. And so I got started writing for them, and I was the person who kind of pushed
Pull away.
to get a video game segment in the magazine. And so I did that, and I did that for quite a few years, and then I moved to New York, and I just started freelancing after that.
So my first job was writing for a games magazine called PC Zone in the UK. I'm not sure if it's well known outside of the UK. Probably not. No one cheered when I said that. It's sadly dead now. Not my fault. But I used to post a lot on their forum, and some of the writers, they look at their forums and they said, we really like your writing style, it's quite funny, and you do, I used to do like short mock reviews and stuff, clearly trying to impress them, and it worked. They invited me over to do some work experience for them, and at the end of that 2 weeks, they asked me if I wanted the job, and I was like, yes, obviously I want to do this job. So I put my education on hold. I thought I'll just spend a summer doing this job, and then 8 years later, 8 poorly paid years later, I regret not staying in education. The day before I was due to fly over to start my job was the day that some crazy people decided to blow up some trains in London, and my mother sort of told me that I was not allowed to go take this job in London. She was just terrified. So I had to sort of not take her advice and brave it in this city that seemed to be exploding at the time. And no, it was the best decision I ever made. And now I'm just a freelancer. I've written for different magazines in between.
I started writing for Game Revolution actually less than a year after I started interning for them, just doing basic databasing. And actually how I started writing is actually part of my coming out story. And what happened is one day I was working on a video that I was editing, and Steve Tan came into the room, and he's like, "I need a lesbian." And, and I was like, "So do I." So basically, the whole point of it was that it was around that whole time when they released that poll online for Mass Effect 3 saying, what do you want the FemShep box art to look like? And I don't know if you guys remember like the internet storm that ensued, but there was this article that another lesbian had written that was extremely misogynistic, and he really wanted Game Revolution to cover it and kind of, battle back that image because it was just totally ridiculous. And he's like, I would love to write this article, but it needs to come from a woman. And I just happened to not only be a woman, but I was a lesbian. So I pretty much analyzed the shit out of the article and blew it out of the water and was like, you know what, if you start talking about the color of a woman's hair on the box art of a game bothers you, then you're gonna have to talk about how like the character is not transgendered, or why isn't the character another ethnicity. So anyway, after that was over, I went through this whole dilemma where I was like, I love this article that I wrote, but I'm still not out to my family. And so the next day I called my dad because I was gonna post it on Facebook and be like, look at this awesome article I wrote, and call him up and I'm like, Dad, I'm gay. And I remember it, without missing a beat, he turns to my stepmom and I hear him say, Jesse finally came out of the closet. So yeah, that was a pretty amazing experience for me, so. That is how I got started.
I got started because I was always writing things, so I just wrote reviews and stuff for my own websites for like Blogger and that. But I saved up and I went to Tokyo Game Show. Just went on my own dime. Just went for like 3.5 days, and wrote a couple articles for a website that had contacted me. Like, hey, you write a little bit. Let's, if you want to, come on, write a little bit for us. So I wrote a few things for them. I talked them into starting a podcast, which I think is still going on. And I went to Duke, who was at Game Revolution, for an intern job also. And he said, no. Just no. Go ahead. But do you want to try and write a review for this really shitty DS game? And I said, sure, why not? So that's really all it was. It was just Craigslist. Mm-hmm. I got lucky.
Okay, so one of the things that kind of like it separates us from the rest of the crowd, because you can talk to any journalist about journalism, but I feel we hold a special place because we also have to look and see what's happening with the gamer movement and see how it's progressing and if it's progressing. And there comes a time that we have to balance out, where do we go as a journalist and where do we go as an activist? So I'd like to ask the panel, how do you maintain that balance between journalist and reviewer and someone fighting for a better gamer sphere for LGBT gamers?
Well, impartiality is one of those buzzwords for journalism, and sometimes I'm like, I don't think I can be impartial. If I see something that's injustice happening, like discrimination, say in the workplace of some developer that I respected once, I kind of, you have to kind of sacrifice sometimes some of the relationships that you've fostered with those companies to just say, you know what, this is wrong, and you have to kind of just have that courage to just say it out loud and not be afraid of it. And yeah, I think that's kind of our responsibility of being a journalist and also a gamer, making sure that our community is protected.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a good question. It raises a good point that as a not only journalist but also someone who's affected by these issues, I mean, it may seem a little bit weird to talk about video games in the context of the civil rights movement, but there's so many parallels to representation for gay and lesbian, transgender individuals in video games that goes back to representation in just general media, how there's so much whitewashing in movies, television. Just, I look on Facebook and I constantly see some inspirational quote that I know like a black man said, and it will have like either be attributed to anonymous or someone else who has nothing to do with it completely on this quote. So it's just, it's a tricky balance between how you explore these issues as a journalist while not falling so much into, I guess you would call it a biased camp. But I think that when it comes to the video games, most people seem to be, when they expect impartiality, it's like, I don't want publishers to be paying you for reviews, versus I don't want you to have an opinion on it, because look at Kotaku and people are blasting them about their comments on Pokemon is crap or whatever. So people don't seem to demand impartiality from your individual personality so much as just, don't be paid, chill. So I think that it's not so much a balancing act in maybe this sphere versus if we had to work for the New York Times or something.
Yeah. Really quick, did you guys see that on Kotaku when I think it was the editor-in-chief, wasn't it? He kind of put everyone on blast. He said, you know what? Certain things are not right, and I will not allow it anymore. And it was a very bold movement because, here we are. We have to tell the news about games. We have to tell our opinions on games. And as you know, the internet is a very loving and fair place. You're on it. I love it.
Sarcasm.
So he finally said, you know what? You people in the comments, you people who comment, please continue to comment, but I'm not going to allow certain ones because finally we have to draw the line somewhere. And I think personally, I'm just interjecting here, personally, we're starting to see more and more people go, that's not okay. That I have to draw the line somewhere. And everyone goes, freedom of speech. Oh God, freedom of speech. When it starts affecting someone else's other thousands of rights, we have to stop that freedom of speech. Well, not, okay, hold on, whoa. There's videos going on. We don't have to stop the freedom of speech. We have to stop the freedom of purveying hate. Yeah. So.
I really don't like well, I love freedom of speech. I'm very pro freedom
I know,
of speech.
right?
But
I didn't mean that.
A lot of people hide behind it and they use that as a ticket to being a complete asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that it's freedom of being an asshole. And it's really not. You can't,
Violation
you
of
can't be an
Wheaton's
asshole. Going back to what we were saying about balance, I don't think that that as a gay gaming journalist, there needs to be any responsibility to sort of, I don't know, rein myself in and what I think about certain things. And I mean, there are enough straight games journalists that I'm not going to start, there's no lack of people coming at it from a straight angle. So if I go full pelt into coming into everything, if I start every review with, as a gay man, this is what I think about this game, I think it's going to be okay, and it's not going to result in anything negative happening. So yeah, I don't think anyone is, nobody's impartial when they write. Everyone has ideas and feelings about things, and I think the more personal you can make your writing, I don't know, for me personally, I try to make my writing quite personal, and it sort of resonates with people, and it sort of works for me, definitely.
Yeah. I definitely have to resist the urge to just be a raging lesbian in all of my reviews because it's so tempting. But I definitely, any chance I get to make a jab at something, I will. I think my recently my favorite review that I wrote was for the Omega DLC because Arya's super gay, and it was just a lot of fun because because I don't get to do that, and also just being a woman, I'm always tempted while reviewing some games to also point out the fact that how objectified women can be, but then that's a whole nother issue because I had to interview the Dead Island games, and you'd find the lone woman in the bikini in the pouring rain who never moves. It's like, where are you going? What are you doing there? But yeah, I mean, I could write like 2 pages about that, but Nick wouldn't let me.
I will. Write it. Write it now.
Okay.
On
It's
stage.
happening. Right now?
Yeah.
Hold on. We need a couple more hours.
I just wanted to kind of touch on the idea of like comments and the freedom of speech argument for that. The one thing I really love that's been happening more and more lately is that when somebody does say something in a comment that's like super homophobic or racist or whatever, they're usually jumped on by the community more often than not. I love that. Where you don't really even need like a proper moderator because the community's moderating itself. It's like, we're not going to tolerate this, and they chase them out. It makes me really happy to see that.
Yeah, that's why I love that we have downvotes now on our site for comments.
So-
yeah, when it can hide the
Right.
What was that? Excuse me, sir?
Oh, Lord.
Big truck series.
Oh, God.
I trolled that guy
Everyone
so
on
hard.
Inside,
Game Revolution.
inside joke.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
Okay. One of the things that I want to pose to the panel, and you guys can go in any order. Please don't feel free. Please don't be restricted.
You've got a
by
domino
order.
thing going on here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was even asked by my own staff at Got Game was, why? What's the big deal about GamerX? Like, why is it a thing? Why do you need your own like convention? As from the journalist position, because I mean, I think it's a lot of fun. That's the whole reason we have it now. But from a journalist perspective, how do you see things like GamerX and things like gaygamer.net and specific sites to the gamer? Is it something we need? Is it self-segregation, as other people have said? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, can I jump in on that one?
Yeah.
Whenever you want.
So, look, no one asks why do you have PAX. No one asks you why do you have E3. What can't you do convention the same time as you gambling or racing or whatever else? Like, that's gaming. Why can't you do it all at the same time? Why do you have to have your own thing? It's only when there is a community that obviously sees that there's a need because they're either underrepresented, or when they do enter those spaces that are traditionally reserved for straight white men, that they are threatened, whether just by virtue of being there or their physical safety, or actually threatened. That's when it becomes an issue of you're taking away something from the dominant privileged party by saying, I just want to be safe. And it's only that point that they're like, wait, why can't you just go to PAX or whatever? Because obviously, if we could and we would feel safe expressing ourselves, then we wouldn't need this, and it would be perfect, and you wouldn't need that sort of a safe space. And I think that question is just really, it's absurdist, and I hate even answering it half the time, because it's like, why do you give credence to this? We need it because we need it. Why do you need PAX? Why do you need, why do you even need a video games website in general? Because we want it, and we're entitled to want it.
Yeah, and even more generalized, people don't ask why there are Star Trek conventions
Yeah.
or furry conventions or really any other niche group conventions. I mean, I go to Classic Gaming Expo every year. Nobody's ever given me crap for that. Go talk about old video games for a couple of days. So who cares if a whole bunch of gay people want to get together and talk about games? Really, it's not a really big deal. It's a big deal to us, and it affects nobody else. So there's no issues.
And,
I don't
well,
see why there be any.
To build off of that, it's a big issue to us, and it should be a big issue to other people. They should look at it and go, well, they've started up something. Why do they need to start it up? Because we're not being represented, because our stories are not being told, because there is no one in gaming as of right now that really stands for, and I hate to use this term, but our people, our nation, okay? Our group, our society of gamers. We have characters like, I'm trying to think of a couple offhand that I used in my thing. There's Nathan Drake, that's iconic. There's Mario and the Princess and all that, that's iconic. But there's no one that we can look at and go, yeah, that character's like us. That character understands, There's not this icon, there's not representation, and all the developers are going, ugh.
And we're stuck with like really kind of sexist interpretations like Hannah and Rain from Fear
Makoto
Effect,
from
which is
Enchanted
ridiculous.
Right. So we need spaces like this so that way developers can go, these people, they're interested in something, what are they interested in? And can we make money off of it? And I'd really love them to make some money off of it by representing us. So.
Yeah, as soon as they realize there's a profit to be made by appealing to gay people,
Right.
they're going to be all over it.
And also it allows us to broach that subject. I mean, a lot of mainstream media or gaming media, they tend to just, shrug the subject under the rug. Now that we have GamerX, and I think this is a rousing success, and I think we're going to have a GamerX too, they can't actually sweep it under the rug anymore. Be like, this is something that is happening. And they live in San Francisco. It's not going to take them that much money for travel expenses. So get your ass over here.
Yeah, pretty much so. Of the actual industry itself, we have to go and meet with developers, and we have to go and meet with publicists, and we have to go and meet with people trying to schlock their games on us, being like, write something nice. How have we found the how have we found the gaming industry, like the actual people who make the games? How have we found them to be toward the LGBT community?
The ones who talk to us, or the ones that we have to go and approach first?
Either one.
So the people that come to me, in my experience, they're obviously reaching out, and they know who I am and so on, and they tend to be fine. And it tends to go company to company, and even within the company, I mean, it's like BioWare, for example, just because they spoke right before us. I think it is easily argued they have a great track record with gay representation. They have their missteps, like the Knights of the Star Wars, the Old Republic, we won't have gay characters, etc., snafu with the forums. So even in a company where you've got some aspects that do it really well, you still have some aspects that handle it really poorly. But the ones that take the initiative, I find, are great. And then there's others who are like, okay, up until the point where I tell them, oh, I write for this website. Why is it spelled like that?
Yeah.
Is that a typo? No. We're really busy now. So it really depends. It's company to company, individual to individual, unfortunately.
So something that happens quite a lot when you're being shown games, the publisher wants to show you a good time, and they like take you out for drinks around showing you their games and stuff. And I think I'm quite straight acting, so a lot of them don't realize that I am in fact gay. And so, I mean, I'll preface this by saying that I have found the games industry to be tremendously welcoming, especially other journalists. They're 99% fantastic people. But the only time I've really felt quite uncomfortable, and this is coming at it from a feminist standpoint as well as a gay guy, was when the PR decided to take all of the journalists out to a strip club. And when I said I had...
Same here.
Yeah, really? That still happens. It's getting rarer and rarer.
Yeah.
But
Why can't this happen when I go to an event?
I've never gotten invited to a strip club. What are they trying to say?
But yeah, when I turned it down and explained why, the guy, I'm not going to say who it was, but yeah, he was quite rude about it and weird about it. But that in 8 years, that is the only time I've ever felt someone's tried to make me feel quite bad about myself. But otherwise, fantastic. Oh, thank you. I'm tearing up.
She just wanted your place on that bus.
I'll give you the guy's details. You can ask if the invite's still open.
Okay. So, I mean, the movement is growing. It's out there. Progress is being made slowly but surely. The wheels are finally turning. What is our role in that? What can we do to move that along? Deep thoughts.
I was thinking about the strip club still. I wasn't paying attention.
I think one thing we can do as journalism, as a journalist, is promote indie developers who are doing the things that we want. And I think after my experience with this weekend, I'm actually probably going to be more forward about creating features that feature people who are making LGBT interactive stories or, doing comics and stuff. And I really think that that's important because something that they mentioned in the BioWare panel, like during the first hour of the con, is that, the big companies aren't going to do anything until they see that it makes money, and they copy things after they've been successful on an indie level, and more often than come up with their own ideas. And I don't think they're gonna ever just, man up and actually do it on their own. So if they see something's really successful independently, then they'll pick it up and make it mainstream. And I think we should probably pay more attention to that market.
I think it's quite a subtle thing. As you say, promoting indie games that sort of that approach these rights and issues, and they try and be more welcoming and inclusive to their players is probably the way to go about it. But it is a very small effect because we are only individuals. But I think cumulatively, if gay games journalists and queer journalists start covering these things, they get picked up more broadly, and it sort of has a snowball effect. But no one person waving a rainbow flag is going to change the games industry by himself. We can try. I mean, maybe we can try.
I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, and a few people have mentioned about how these days when shitty behavior happens on a community, can I say shitty?
Yeah.
You just said it twice.
Watch your goddamn mouth. Come on.
When it happens
Children
in the
here.
when it happens in a community, the community themselves do a lot more policing of it than I have ever seen in years. And I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with awareness that more people are thinking about these issues in ways that they hadn't been until recently. A lot of people are recognizing the social advantages that they have that other people don't have, and how lacking those advantages creates a disadvantage. So I think a lot of people are more aware of this and are taking it a little bit more on board than they previously would have done before. And that has an effect on developers that I think BioWare is probably never going to say gay characters didn't exist in the Star Wars universe in the future. So everyone has, they have a one example, and then other companies will look, wow, they really screwed that up, so I'm not going to do that. So it's a cumulative thing. It trickles on, and it does get better, and I think all we really can do is just raise awareness when someone screws up and compliment them when they do it well. But then at the same time, if someone has done it well in the past and then in the future screws up, don't be afraid to still say, you guys blew this.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a lot more developers come out, because I went to one panel at GDC, and every time I go, there's always this one panel that's in a private room, and people from Sega, people from Capcom, people from every developer I've heard of has someone who is an indelible part of that game. And I think if more people, even the straight community, knew that, look, if you're against gay people, they make your games. So, give them some respect. And I think that helps and can bring out awareness, and that allows us to be yes, we can feature that person. Yeah.
I personally would recommend that we as journalists also need to listen more to our gaming community. And in turn, what I need you guys to do is, if you have a favorite journalist or you have a writer that you read regularly, do not be afraid to contact them. And if there's any issue that you have, let them know. If they put out a great review of this game that is very heterosexist and obviously heterosexist, write them an email and let them know, hey, did you ever think about it this way? Don't be accusatory. But hey, did you ever see it in this light? Or hey, what would you think if this character turned out to be gay? Or hey, do you think these two characters were really, kind of closer than they should be? Or whatever you want to say. Because trust me, I know that people are out there reading our articles, and God forbid we mess up a name, because then we hear about it all the time. I'm angry, But if we could do that over a name, why are we not doing that for our own cause? So let's go, and every time that something comes up, I'm not saying be that person like every time that they write an article, you didn't mention gay. But if there is an issue, and we know when there are issues, and we know when something is just, it's just a game, as to they're making a point here, and we need to point it out to our industry, because obviously we're in the know, because we're fabulous, but not everyone else is as fabulous as us. To point it out to your people, especially to straight journalists, they might even not know there's a problem.
They might not know.
They might not know.
Like, totally
And
oblivious.
I'm going to back up what Jessica said, support your indie developers. I've seen many this weekend. I know the developers for Sun and Nor are out here. I know Anna Enshby is out here. Support your indie developers. They are the ones who are going to start the process. And if we can back them up, then they're going to go ahead and go on to higher positions. And hopefully we'll get Mass Effect 4 with an ending that doesn't suck and a hero. So.
Oh, controversy.
Is it really?
I'm kidding. Okay. Let's go ahead. Do you want to open it up to questions now? I like questions.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. If you have questions, I believe there are darling little people in blue shirts with microphones. There's one right there. Hi. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and one of us fine people will help you out. Let's not all volunteer at once.
The questions part isn't optional, by the way. We can sit here for 20 minutes quietly.
I've done it before.
Nick will
I'll
ask
do it
you.
again.
First off, thank you all for putting on this event and coming here and participating in this panel. I'd like to ask, I was also at the Journalism 101 panel that was held earlier today, and one of the questions I asked were, what was the role that journalists have when it comes to social issues, like when there's homophobia in a game or when there's sexism in a game? And they answered much along the lines of what I expected, which is that they do have a role to play when it comes to talking about this sort of thing. However, immediately after, I also spoke to them about why was there such a lack of conversation about this con, about HumorX. To me, it's kind of revolutionary. It's the first gaming convention that focuses on gay gamers. Their explanation was that it was a smaller con and they don't typically spend that kind of time paying attention to that, but to me that sounds like a cop-out, and I'm wondering what your opinions are of something like that.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, personally, I've been a fan of this con ever since the Kickstarter. So, as soon as Casey and Matt were offering to do interviews, like pretty early on, I was like, we're getting an interview with them, and we met up with them and we promoted it on our site, and we got a lot of great feedback about it, and we haven't done an article like every day since the con's been in progress, but we did do some follow-up stuff to remind people it was happening, and I do agree, I feel like there was a lack of like, hey, this is happening on the internet, and
I'll spin off of that, because I happen to see a lot of the interviews that have been done, and there were a lot of interviews, but it was kind of like the people who are progressive in that aspect were the ones putting out the interviews, the more progressive gaming sites. But we got interviews with like The Advocate. We got interviews with I believe the San Francisco Examiner was one of them. So the interviews were out there. It was the game sites that were like, we don't want anything to do with that. And again, that's why we need things like that, because while the universe out there beyond our consoles and PCs are kind of figuring it out, we're too busy playing games, and I like that. But at the same point in time, there's an issue going on with us as well. We're part of that struggle that's going on out there. So the issue has been promoted. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I wish there was more coverage from game sites. But I do know that a lot of the smaller websites picked up and ran with it, and there have been some of the biggest backers of this convention. Now, I don't know if IGN was on it, I forget, but there was not a whole lot of the big site coverage, and that could attest to the size, or it could attest to the fact that they weren't ready to discuss the issue, which, after this, I think they should be. I think we've kind of proven a little bit of a point here, so.
Although for the rest of the universe kind of getting to know this, can I just send a personal thank you to the Westboro Baptist Church, who was really putting the word out for us?
Thank you.
I did see. I mean, I don't know if your question is specifically about interviews or just coverage of the fact that the con existed in the first place, and if the question is about amongst gay media, not really talking very much about it. I think I had noticed that to a certain extent, but then there's also like we have 2 websites maybe. There's very little that is on a caliber in terms of traffic as something like Kotaku or Polygon or whatever. So I've noticed that Gay Gamers here, they've done, like, they had a panel earlier today, so they have a huge presence. They've promoted the convention throughout the last year. I've noticed Kotaku, whenever it will get them hits, they'll post something controversial. So, I mean, it was one of those Kickstarter darlings, and a lot of the coverage I saw approached it from that angle. That, oh look, here's another example of something successful in Kickstarter, versus the gay angle, and whether that's they found it something that they didn't want to approach or what, I don't know. It's obviously a huge deal. Like, I know Matt, I ran into him just yesterday, and he was talking about how they had sold X amount of tickets just through the Kickstarter, and then they thought this was the capacity, and then just people descended onto San Francisco to buy tickets the day of the convention. So he was talking about how they suddenly exploded in capacity that way. So it's obviously been successful, and I think we have definitely, made it clear that not only do we have a voice, but we have a presence and we have financial power, which is very, very important to not just the companies, but the companies that cover the companies.
And just to really quickly wrap that up, the fact that there's interest out there, it means more of our journalist people are going to be like, oh, there's interest, we should write stories, right? Because we want to know what you guys want to know. So if there's things that, are not being addressed, again, that's why I say, hit up your favorite writers. Let them know, hey, why are you not talking about this, Be interactive, be part of that. Because I think there's going to be even more press for what has happened, even though it's happened now and they can't buy tickets to it. But we can start ramping up already for GX2. And more people are going to be stoked to go there because there is interest and there is proven interest. So,
the reason why they because of it is because of all these buzzwords they put in like a press release that they just kind of ignore. Like Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You said that, oh, great, another Kickstarter. Why do that? Or it almost approached like a new IP from like an indie developer. They're like, oh, great, another press release out of the 30,000 emails I get every day, And it kind of like, that's why they swept people on the rug, because like they're not sure if anyone's going to be even interested in it. But now there is. So
Yep.
it's kind of like that sequel. Oh, there's a sequel now to it? Oh, we gotta cover it now.
I got to go back and play the first game. So. Where's the microphone, Dooley?
Hello.
Oh, there it is. Oh, sorry. I know.
So I made a gay game, and it got a bit of coverage in the mainstream press, but it was covered as an oddity, as in, I'll look at this quirky thing.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, do you think mainstream journalism could cover a niche game where they have this filter in place where they're not part of that niche? It was not necessarily gay, but just any kind of...
Like, it doesn't account to what they're reporting on? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they sort of lack a bit of sensitivity talking about the themes,
Okay.
because to them it's all new information.
Okay.
You've got that aspect of it, not just gay, just niche in general, that whenever you are doing something, whether it's a movie or a book or what, that caters to a smaller audience, the only way the larger audience is going to notice it is if there's something weird about it, or there's something that is going to, especially from a journalistic point of view, if there's something that's going to drive attention. Like, no one wants to read an article about the adventures of Bath Soap 2. So...
Did you play the first one? It was great.
The writing in it was really, really underrated. If you're going to get on that, it's going to be because, there's something weird about it. And you can kind of point that back to the coverage of the convention itself, that the mainstream coverage of it was like looking at it as how can we exploit this in a manner that's going to interest our readership. And now that it's proven itself, I think you'll see a lot less of that it'll be, it's not an unknown quantity anymore. So that's probably the same with, any other creative output, that once you're no longer an unknown quantity, someone will be less willing to examine you in a manner that's going to be weird. But if you're asking specific things, probably whatever you can do that's going to take advantage of your niche, find websites that more cater to that niche. And I mean, it's hard. I'm a science fiction writer professionally, so I definitely very much understand how much it sucks to write something and it's not 50 Shades of Grey, so no one wants to talk to me.
Well, personally, I actually would love to cover more niche stuff on our site, and because of the format of Game Revolution, we actually have more time to discuss that along with writing news and previews and stuff. Not too long ago, I actually, when I got into Skyrim modding, after I bought it for the PC and lost 2 days of my life,
Just 2 days?
Just 2 days.
That she'll admit to.
Or yeah, actually. Well, it was kind of like a blur, so maybe it was more than that. But I actually ended up, Nick let me do a feature on False Scar. I don't know if any of you guys have played it, but so that was really cool. And I don't think that something like that would have been permitted if I had been on another site that didn't cover mods. Because we don't really do reviews of mods on our site, but I was just so it just really had a big impact on me, and I wanted to write about it, and I was able to do that. So I would like to do more stuff like that.
Okay, I think we have to start kind of wrapping up pretty soon. So I know there are a couple more questions out there. Who's got the mic? Hi, Ash.
Hello. Hi. I really like your advice that you have been giving us as a community, and how we can help get the news out there. But I was just wondering, I didn't notice a lot of major game magazines covering this, but it makes sense that we as a community have the power. So as journalists, how would you guys recommend that we best get in touch with them and say hey, why didn't you cover this? I'm kind of, mad about that, because my friends who are from my town didn't know this event was happening, and I feel like it's on them to, kind of cover this sort of stuff. So how can we get their attention and say, this is important and we need to make a stand?
I think you just answered it yourself, really. Just
You're right about it.
go tell
Post a
them,
blog,
That's
put it
it.
on Reddit.
Twitter.
Yeah.
I want
Twitter.
I want to hear about this. Why didn't you cover it? Why did I have to find out
Yeah.
from some other site or some other person, etc.? I think that's really the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, Twitter, email, pretty much every article in this whole cyberlinked world that we're in now has a Twitter, a Facebook, an email, pictogram, cyber chat, shit I'm making up.
Those are all going to be
Cyber
apps
chat.
now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You should be an
page.
entrepreneur.
I should, right? They all have them, and they're all on everyone's site. And if it's not on their article, it's on their profile. Click it and send it. You got to get the word out. We need to hear from you so we can talk to them, so we can tell everyone else. Okay, it's a whole big circle of life, and it moves us all.
Oh God, Nick, don't sing it.
So when you
Okay. Okay, who's got the mic? Yes.
Hey,
Nice hat.
Oh, there's two going on.
oh no.
Why don't you ask it in sync?
Fight.
recently on websites, I find it that anything progressive is never wrong, and being a white straight male, I kind of feel like I can't ever argue against anything, or not really argue, just really try to say, hey, that may not be true, or something like that.
Turn his mic off. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So, are you the straight white male? Do you know where you're at?
By the way, welcome. Thank you for coming out.
No,
Yeah, no, please do. Yeah.
Somebody had to say it.
So this is, this is advice that I would give that not even remotely only for video games. I'm a gay white male. There are privileges that being male you get socially that you don't get if you're female. There's privileges that you get white that you don't get for being anything else. And a lot of the things that you may read and say, I don't feel that that's true, are because you have very limited experience that you're not going to necessarily see. Like, this is a constant growing thing for me, just being Caucasian, that someone else who's black or, you know, Asian will look at it and like, why does it take you this fucking long to understand? So there's a lot of things that you are just blind to that you wouldn't be if you were in any other circumstance. So just keep that in mind, that if your initial thing is, I disagree with this, maybe read the experiences that other people are sharing and try and see, well, why do they feel that way? Because most people don't like pull this stuff out of their ass.
I do think you shouldn't be afraid to disagree, though.
No, please don't.
People can be wrong, even if they are crusading or fighting for something that they really believe in. They can make mistakes, and you are perfectly legitimate in being able to call them out on things that you disagree with. But as long as you are presenting a polite argument, and you are being very considerate of the other, not even considerate, just not being an asshole, then I think you are right. It's not wrong to argue with people, as long as you're doing it in a constructive way,
right?
And you are open-minded and
just be willing to, if you feel that ask someone else to explain and they do, just be willing to accept their answer.
Yeah, guys, we're kind of running out of time. I do want to say really fast though, you are my favorite person in this whole entire room, because we need the allies. Okay, I have always maintained a position that we can do as much work as we can, but until the people who aren't affected still see this as a problem, we're not going to get anywhere. And so we need the straight allies, and thank you, really. I know I was joking about cutting off the mic, I don't mean it. But seriously, thank you, and please tell your friends that this is an issue that we're trying to fight for. And I don't know where you stand on the position, I don't want to make an assumption, but you're here at GamerX, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
His girlfriend brought him.
Stop it.
Stop.
You guys, we are out of time. I know we're going to be hanging around for a little bit. If you have questions that you didn't get to, please come up to any of us. We are more than happy to answer them. Closing ceremonies time. Yay! And thank you for coming out. Keep us accountable, okay? You are reading our work. Please help us out, okay?
Thank you, guys.